Like when I first got my car, like I had gone from never seeing this car to like now every time I'm out, like I see this car. So I think it's kind of the same thing. Like I'm sure those cars were out there. I just wasn't paying attention to them. So it's kind of the same thing for the opportunities, right? Like this is someone I knew of for the last 6 months or so, but it wasn't until this morning that I was like, hey, I'm in Michigan for the holidays. Is there a possibility that over this next week we could just talk and see if there's any way that I could help you because I liked your art? And then they're like, yeah, the next 2 hours I'm free if you can make it at this place and we'll talk. And I was like, perfect. So it is just one of those things where you start to see those opportunities and putting some effort and see where those opportunities go. And a lot of them I'm sure won't result in anything besides more understanding the type of people that I want to work with. That's definitely something that Stephen has made me realize as like we're working with several people in the music industry. I'm like, all right, great. I'm all in on the music industry. Like that will be my thing. I'll learn how to like speak the way to them where they understand exactly what I'm talking about. But Stephen made me realize it's a lot more the people that I'm working with that I just have good relationships with. That's been another eye-opening thing. Another goal for 2020 is to not only expand my network but also work with people that I enjoy working with and can have good communication.
Tonight we're going to be covering our plans, our goals for 2020, kind of our strategy for how we set a goal and then try to work backwards to accomplish it. It seems to have really worked out for us, even though 2019 was a little all over the place. But my name is Stephen. This is my brother, Nathaniel. Together we are WingMan University. This is just a place where we can collectively help you guys and then find other ways to work with you under the umbrella of POD.
We're just trying to share our lessons that we are learning. A lot of it comes from failures, so we're happy to go through that failure as long as we can share it with you guys and you guys get value out of it. That's something that makes, I think, the failure sting a little bit less for me and Stephen because we feel like others are learning these lessons and it's not just like, okay, we went through this failure, we learned this lesson, now on to the next thing. So a little bit of a archive for ourselves as well to go back to some lessons we've learned in past. But also we just like this idea of growing a community around the lessons that we're learning in our business. And that's really our goal for 2020 is to be a lot more collaborative here. So like true wingmen, we do want to be right alongside you and provide help for exactly where you're at in your business. But we also this year want to be a lot more collaborative with you guys. So not just hear about the problems that you're going through and try to find solutions for them. We still want to do that, but also kind of involve the problems that you're going through in our business to see if we can't, make solutions for more than just ourselves and maybe the people we're working directly with. We want to open up the conversation of what's going on in our business, to a lot more people, and hopefully encourage you guys to share what's going on with us a lot more in 2020 and doing more small groups and all these great ideas that we have. So before we get too deep into all of that, I will turn it back over to Stephen so he can kind of move us on to the next point before I just start, talking about everything we wanted to share this show, just in this first monologue that I'm supposed to
have. Setting goals is something that we enjoy doing. I think for 2019, it was very open-ended. We set loose goals. We wanted to get into teaching. We wanted to get into a lot of things. We were afforded a lot of opportunities and just jumped at them. The plans that we did set, I feel like we accomplished. Setting up different goals, working with different people, all that stuff went, I don't know about according to plan, but how we planned it out. Now that we are looking back at 2019 and thinking forward into 2020, me and Nathaniel have talked about different ideas, and we have a much clearer plan of how we want to move forward. The bigger goal for our business is to continue to grow POD. We're going to be adding on Shopify like Nathaniel talked about. I guess a little bit more personal for me. I want to take a lot more role of like the content. It feels like when me and Nathaniel talk about certain things, we see a clear path for one another. But the Shopify is really Nathaniel's hat to put on. I guess in order to explain this a little bit better, Nathaniel had an idea that when we are doing things together, we sometimes step on each other's toes. He put it to me like putting on different hats. And I was just like, this is an awesome concept. We should talk about this. He is putting on the Shopify hat. Everything that's Shopify will go through him. I think for me, I love the teaching and the interaction, the making the content a little bit more. That's going to be my bigger focus for this year. So as I'm setting goals, I have numbers and stuff that I want to hit, but it's a little unknown. So when I set those goals, I like to kind of break them up into months, and then I can go, okay, each month, if I don't hit that goal, can I look back, refresh, recalibrate, think about it, and then readjust my goals to be able to still hit my end goal? Or did I set too lofty of a goal? Was it too underwhelming? I guess the whole point is to just, when you're setting the goals and you're going after something new, if you're just adding merch or KDP, the perception that you might have starting out is skewed. You don't have enough data to make a clear-cut goal. But setting the goal, writing it down, and then working backwards at least gives you a starting point. Then after that first month, adjusting it is what really helps us to be able to reach those goals.
Yeah, that was a big learning point for me. I think Stephen had learned that lesson years ago, but for me, it took me a while to know that word adjustment is very important to goal setting, because I'm like, if I say something like that's what I'm going to do, it has to stay that way. I want it to be set in stone, but especially when you're just starting to learn things, making sure that you have some grace for yourself, as Christy has taught us, and to be able to adjust as you're moving forward, actually allows you to not be so stressed out. I think that's my main thing. Like I said, if I set this as my goal, if I write it down anywhere, like that's the thing that I want to do. But working with Stephen and the other partners that we have, learning that you can adjust your goals, halfway through, either to make them more realistic or to reach a little bit farther, or just, change kind of the direction that you were going. Like, okay, maybe this isn't so important. This other thing, this other, ruler to measure our success by is more important than having that grace, like I said, for yourself to adjust those things. Is a big thing, especially when starting out. Do you want me to talk about my goal this year?
Yeah, I guess I was looking for you to talk about the hats idea. I feel like I butchered it. And it was like, I was trying to relate it into what I was saying, but I was like, oh, I should have just had the thing to explain it. That way we could have,
you explained it a lot more, I think, straight to the point than I did. It took me a while to get around to this idea of I'm putting on different hats. I was basically telling Stephen that I think that I'm doing things that he is better at. So it's we have a few examples that we'll talk about, but basically me having all of these hats that I'm putting on, that I feel like some of them just fit Stephen better. And instead of me running this part of the business or doing the deal structuring, that's really the big one that I'm trying to ask Stephen for a lot more help in. Yeah. And basically just hand him that hat is just, again, a learning experience. Something that we're learning in our business that we want to share with you guys is, if you do have business partners, it's good to share some of the responsibility, even if you feel like you've split the thing 50-50, which our business is not split 50-50 at all. Some parts, it's 100% Stephen, some parts 100% me, but we're learning how to best work with each other and how to involve each other in certain conversations that suit our skill set better. So that is kind of the idea. Again, I don't think I did a great job of explaining it either, but we see these hats as the responsibilities inside of our business. And by saying Stephen is wearing this hat, then it kind of unloads that responsibility on me. It's not that I don't have anything to do with it anymore, but when it comes to, creating a new deal with a new client that we're working with, that's definitely going to be something that I bring to Stephen. And we can think about it, but Stephen ultimately will have the say. Because he's just a lot more gifted in that. He's done a lot more deal structuring than I have for real estate and all the other things he's been involved in. So when it comes to figuring out what's going to work best for us and also the client, that's something that I'm just going to trust Stephen with now. And it's not that I didn't trust him with it before. It was just that I was kind of trying to do it and learn it, because I think that is a good part of the business. And it's not to say, again, that I'm not interested in learning it or see it as valuable. But for the idea of 2020, I want Stephen to more manage that. And until it comes to a point where it's okay, we're doing so many deals, he needs me to help out, or he wants to put me back in place of having the final say for some of that stuff, just to learn those lessons. But right now, there's so much new stuff going on in this Shopify world. I'm okay, I need to take this hat off, kind of involve you more in the Shopify business. And that would be a thing that fits well with his skill set, and it would be some frustration off of mine as I'm trying to do so many new things, like I said.
Yeah, I guess when you were talking about it too, it was very interesting to me, because I think how our business is set up and realizing that you are better at some things, I'm better at some things, it's not ever a 50-50. We are normally doing 80-20 most of the time, or 100. It's just getting bounced back and forth. But realizing when you were talking about it, it just was a clear picture in my head of even as I do my own parts, I realized I had to put on separate hats for either taking the action or learning, and then just learning that balance between, is this a time that I'm getting stuck because I don't know enough? Or is this a time where I'm just learning too much and not taking enough action? I think that's something that, as we've been helping a lot more people with, realizing like those are two main hats that you have to put on, the action hat and the learning hat. Business wise, I think as you grow a POD business, you're going to be doing multiple platforms, you're going to be doing multiple products, like it's going to be growing. But I think you should really focus in and hone on one. Start with it. The learning, I think, is going to take precedence, and it's going to feel like you're not really getting the results that you want because the action that you're going to be taking is going to be lagging behind the knowledge you're going to be gaining.
Yeah.
I think, let me go one more. I think for us,
okay.
we always push action heavy because with POD, a lot of the learning comes in as you're doing those actions. And the benefit of taking action almost up front is you're putting lines in the water. So you can almost start having success, like when I was helping my mom, by just doing the thing. But as soon as you have success and you learn a little bit more, that is when I think your business really scales. I didn't mean to cut you off, brother. Sorry, I was just trying
No,
to
that's
get all
good.
that.
I just was going to say, to do this like multiple hats thing justice, I think I will do a separate video on that completely and just put that on.
Since we did so good tonight on it.
Yeah, because clearly neither of us were able to explain that very well. I'm going to try and do a separate video just talking about that this week. So that will be on our YouTube channel. If you guys haven't found us over there, it's just WingMan University. I try to either expand on the stuff that we talk about Monday over there,
or clarify
completely, new ideas, or clarify. We have a couple of series and stuff going on over there. So if we can get into the goal sharing of what was 2019, more than happy to go first if you'll let me.
Yeah, I think just this strategy of starting, I don't know what the end, but with the goal in mind and working backwards. I remembered how you were thinking about, maybe it wasn't even 2019, it was just an older idea of you traveling. That was such like a, maybe in my face because it was like something I wasn't involved with, but I just kept on seeing you like go back to it, pull up the map, plan everything out, like have everything with dates attached to it. And just like you knew how much you were going to spend in certain places and stay in certain places. It was just fascinating to me that you planned it out that heavily. And I was like, oh, I don't know if I've planned everything out in like life that intently over such a long period of time, but in business, I'm constantly doing that. It was fascinating for me to see that. I wanted you to share that. I don't know if that's the story that you're going to share, but hopefully I kind of pushed you in that direction to share that.
Yeah,
And then I'll talk about mine.
It's not like a very business focused goal that I had, but it was more of just this like lofty thing that I wanted to do. I just felt like I was at the age in a place in my life where I was like, I need to, I don't know, for my own sanity, maybe, to just see more of the world. And starting with the United States, I do plan on traveling a lot overseas and things like that. But I just thought it'd be nice, since I'm at a time and a place in my life that I could travel pretty freely. I don't have a ton of things tying me to one location. I guess I did at the time I made this goal. That's why it seemed so lofty of just like, I'm going to buy a car and I'm going to drive basically as far as that car will take me. Like in my head, I had, so that was the goal, was just to travel the United States a lot more by car to see, you know, all the different highways and kind of to do an homage to my mom who traveled cross country from New Hampshire to California. So driving some of the same routes that she did was just, you know, something that I had dreamt of doing when I was like in high school, and I was finally in a place that I felt like it was a realistic thing, or at least made enough sense to share with my brother / business partner to let him know like, hey, I'm going to try and dip out of here for a while. So that was the goal, and we were able to do a lot of cool things, even when it came to like buying the car and working on the car with my dad. It wasn't like all planned out quite like that, but that was kind of the idea of like, I think that we can make this business kind of fit the lifestyle that I want. And that was really the biggest thing. So again, when I had this idea, I was working at the screen printer full time. I was doing kind of my dream job at the time, which was graphic design on an hourly wage. You know, it was consistent, it was reliable, it was great, until I realized that a lot of the work that I was doing, I could just do basically from this laptop that I'm carrying with me all the time. And so that was kind of the goal that started from there, of just like, I want to get away from just going to this building and using this specific computer, because it doesn't matter what computer or what building I'm sitting in, as long as I have, you know, a beefy enough computer to do my graphic design and a stable enough internet connection to send out stuff and do, you know, video calls like this. So that was where that idea sprouted. And it was like, well, if I'm going to be trying to live or work remotely, I might as well try to also live kind of remotely, and not just be tied to even, the one house that we had in Florida. Kind of the big goal that I had set, I think, at the beginning of 2018, and within a couple of months, the ball just kind of started rolling. And, I think it was like 3 months when I went from not even having a car and just like biking to work every day to actually having this car, building this car with my dad, and being on the road to the first stop that I made, which was New Orleans. So that was a goal that definitely took off once I started like telling Stephen about it and talking about it and putting that focus towards that goal. Because like Stephen said, once it was written down, then I could realistically look at like what is possible. How do I work this thing backwards of going, okay, first thing I need to do is find a car. So that like made me put out the feelers to see if that was even possible to acquire like the type of vehicle that I would want. And, okay, now I want to make sure this car is going to be roadworthy. I have a father who's a very good mechanic, but he's several states north. So I'm buying kind of a beat up car to get a good price on it, and then working on it with my dad to make sure that it's like very road worthy, and doing all of those things. So it was like each little step that I was making forward. It was only because I had this kind of lofty goal at the beginning, but then I worked all the way back to just like the very basic steps of, okay, let's start looking on Craigslist for a car. Like that was the very first step. Maybe calling my dad first, actually, to look for the car was the first step. But that was definitely like the game plan. And so seeing how effective that has been, and for that goal to last basically 2 years, like after I kind of achieved what I was trying to do, I was able to live that out for 2 years, which was fantastic. I got to do exactly what I wanted to do, was just travel and see a bunch of friends in areas that I never dreamt that I'd be able to see. It was very cool to see that, and just inspiring now for the next goal that I set, that it can be something that I feel is out of reach as long as I write it down and work backwards to see what is possible.
Yeah, it was interesting to see you not have a car, not like
just
not
tell
be in a
Steven that the
position
first time I told him, his face was like, what are you even talking about? Like, you live in what
like,
he
"Good
thinks
luck."
is the greatest place on earth. So
Good
why
luck.
do you even want to travel? But two, like, how are you going to do this when you don't even have a car? Like, I haven't even told Steven that I wanted a car at the time, because I was just happy riding the bike, like saving money on insurance and all those things. Like, I wasn't going very far in St. Petersburg. We kind of stick to our little bubble. So he was like, why? So that was a funny thing when I told him, just to like see his reaction to it. But then again, how quickly that snowballed. So sorry to cut you off, but I did just remember your face the first time I told you that goal. You're like, what are you talking about? Like, why would you ever leave Florida?
Well, I wanted to like drive that point home of setting what you might think is a very unrealistic goal, maybe at the time. Like, Nathaniel didn't have a car. He was living with us. It was just like, he's going to work. He's making decent money now, but it wasn't like enough to do what his goal was, to just travel the country for 2 years. And it was before you even did like the side hustle. You were dabbling in a lot of things, but it wasn't like, once you set that goal, then as soon as you were working backwards, like, I need a car. I need to make this much money. I think it like shifted your mentality to go, okay, if I need a car, I need it by here. Okay, if I need a car by then, I need this much money. How am I going to make this much money? I think that is what sparked this idea of, I'm going to get back into POD. That was the biggest thing for me, was the takeaway, to like see that process, for you to like start with this map. And I was like, this seems so far-fetched that it's never going to work. But then seeing you work backwards, I was like, oh, this is the same thing I do in business. For us, the teaching was not in the plans, but once we got on that first stage, I planned out the next year. Was like, okay, how does this work? Let's try to hit more stages to get better at this, then figure out the teaching business. How do we help more people? And then just planning that whole thing out, reaching out to people, making sure that we can go on this stage. But the opportunities, I think, is what really took that to the next level. I had a plan that I wanted to shoot for, and then I was working backwards, just reaching out to people, making the calls. I think when people saw what we were doing, it was like the opportunities just sprung out of everywhere. I think that's the same thing for Nathaniel when he had this lofty plan of traveling. He had a plan and he worked backwards, but as he was pursuing his plan, the opportunities started showing up. I don't know if it's like they're always there. You don't realize they're there until you actually start looking for them. But he could have started a POD business from before. Like when he was working with me, he could have done that. But I don't think it was a necessity or something that he really was looking into at the time. But I think he realized early on that the job is not going to allow me enough money to do this lofty dream, or I'm going to have to work a lot longer than when I had planned to leave, and I need a car by here. So it was like, it forced you to look elsewhere. I think that's the whole point of setting these goals, is to set a big goal and then working backwards, I think helps your mind to find other avenues and other pathways. It's really helped us in our business. I wanted to share those stories with you guys. I also wanted to be able to talk about the
Well, hold on, before
2020
you
goal.
you move past that, what you just said was, I think, actually really good. Of like, that goal that I had of traveling was actually in my head for a lot longer. Like I said, it kind of started in high school when I heard that my mom had driven across country, and I was like, oh, I'd love to do that one day and like take kind of the same roads that she did to California. Um, and so that was a goal that I had for maybe 5 years before I told Steven. And again, to see Steven's face of just like not understanding what I was even talking about was like so clear to me that like there's something that happens when you speak that goal into existence, or just start telling people about it. So one, I'd like to encourage you guys that if you have any goals that have kind of been like in the back of your head, maybe 2020 is the year to do that, but at least you can start telling us about it. So in the comments, the descriptions, wherever you're watching this, if you guys feel comfortable, you can just put those goals down there, because something different happens when you start talking to people about those goals. Even if you want to personal message me, what your goal was, just so like I could see it and help you guys work towards that. I think there is power in that. The same power we talked about a couple weeks ago, where it was like, the time and the place. Those are two things that you want to do whenever you're like, I'm going to do this thing. Writing down your goals, it's helpful to have a time and place. I think it's also helpful once you have those goals written down to share them, because one, other people can hold you accountable, but also I think it just cements it in your own head a little bit of like, yes, this is a goal that I'm working towards. Because again, before I told Steven about that, I had been trying to like dabble in things on the side. And the only reason I had motivation to do things like work 8 hours at the screen printing job and then work 8 hours for myself after was because I had this idea, even though I hadn't spoken it to Steven. And so I was like, if this is going to be possible, I have to work 16-hour days to make this thing work. And then it was a realization of like, okay, this 8 hours that I'm doing for myself on the side is now actually making more money than my regular job. So like I can transition into that, and it has the benefit of allowing me to do that like, where I want and when I want, which was, a fantastic place to be. So definitely encouraging you guys in the comments or personal message to me, just let me know what your goals are, because saying them out loud does work. And we have, a few small groups that we have, and we're seeing that even in those small groups, as you guys are saying, these are our goals. And even being kind of vulnerable, like, it might not be a strictly business goal. Like mine was not really business related at all. That stuff still does help you work towards those things and have a clearer picture of how to work backwards from it. Because that was something that I struggled with. And I think why I did that goal didn't go anywhere in the first place is because it wasn't until I told Steven about that goal that we actually started working backwards from it. He did think it was crazy and lofty, but he was like, okay, like what is the first step that we can take? Or, what's one step down from traveling all over the place that would help you get there? So just, actually taking each step backwards and figuring out where I start tomorrow with this goal. So just a little encouragement. I know that was a tangent, so I'm sorry if you forgot what you were talking about, Steven, but I just thought that was important to say, encourage people, not just to write those down, but share them. And it doesn't have to be with us. It could be with family or whoever, but giving you guys a safe place, which is in our comments, in our little community here, to share those things, I think is helpful. So.
Yeah, it was not the direction that I was thinking you were going to go in, but that's why I just kind of let you go. I think we do the same thing. Once we kind of hit a vein and we get passionate about it, we just let the other person run with it. My idea was more to like, here's the big goal. You broke it down, and it was fascinating to like see the opportunities come as you were setting the dates, and the dates were coming up, and you were like, yeah, we got like 2 more weeks to get this car. I need another $2,000. Then it was like, oh, here's another opportunity. We'll go do this. And oh, we can partner up with these people. Then now I get to hit that. But what you said, writing those things down, making them a reality, speaking them out loud. I think it's all part of this goal setting. I don't think we're experts in that field. It's just, this is what's worked for us. And that's what these calls are for, is like, what's worked for us? What advice can we give you to help you guys out? That's what we're trying to give you. I think for your road trip, there's a lot of lessons there. And I think just letting you talk about it reminds me of going back to it and just like, this is all good information. I don't want to cut you off. But the business side of it, I want to kind of have you switch, like telling that story and just showing the points in there, to now you're thinking about Shopify. you're going all in on Shopify. I think as far as the hats go, like I'm just going to put that Shopify hat on you. The content, everything will run through that. But I know, I don't know if you set like your 2020 end goal that you're shooting for, but I know you've started to break it down and think about it, and writing that stuff down of you want to work with more people, you see the problems in what you might be getting into, you want to take it completely on and realize like the deal structuring side of this is not my strength. I can go out and get these new clients, but then when I'm setting up the deals, like I'm underestimating my time, I'm overestimating, we're still over delivering, but it's getting difficult for me to like see from an outside perspective what I should be doing. I need to start bringing in more people and turning this into a business more than a side hustle.
Right. That was something that you just said to me not too long ago, a couple of weeks ago, when I was
This
complaining.
morning.
Well, when I was complaining about clients, not the clients in particular, but just like how I'm having to learn so many new things and juggle so many things. That was something that Stephen brought to my, attention, or reminded me of, like, hey, when you're doing print on demand and you started coming to me with these complaints that you're having, like, oh, I don't understand SEO or keywords or any of that. Like, that's when I involved Stephen. And that's kind of the same thing that I've done with Shopify. Shopify was like an idea that we had that I really picked up and ran with just on the side. And now that we have a few clients and, some money coming in from the Shopify thing, basically, we're allocating more of my attention towards that. But then I got to a point where I was working with enough clients to be like, okay, I think I need Steven's help, so I'm going to bring him into this. And so, like he said, I think it was this week or last week, he was like, okay, this is going from one of those side hustle things that just involves Nate because he's excited about it, to like, we actually need to build a system and workflow for all of these things, which means I can involve Steven in the parts of the business that I don't like, which is the great thing about having a business partner. So definitely the deal structuring, like, that was something that, again, I've learned a ton about. I kind of know how I would structure a deal even today, several hours ago, talking with somebody and trying to work the deal through with them. But I got to a point where I was like, okay, well, actually, this deal involves more than just me. So if I can, take some time, talk with my business partner, who is also my brother, and we can figure out something, and then I'll shoot you an email that would work out, best, or what would, help everyone in the situation. I forget exactly how I worded it, but it was a little bit more eloquent than that. But that's kind of the idea of, the Shopify hat is still mine to wear, but that doesn't mean that I can't involve Steven in parts of the business, especially parts of the business that he is more suited for and has the skill set for. And we're doing that with, several other people inside of the Shopify world as we're learning. Here are some of the things that we just don't have the strengths in, because we haven't had to do them all that much, but we know people that we've been talking with for years that are strong in that. And so we want to partner with them and learn how to do that better. And one way to do that is involve them actually in our business and say, like, here's this piece that we need help with. If you can help us, we'll figure out the deal structuring. Stephen will figure out the deal structuring of what that looks like. But we all get to learn and get better at this thing. So definitely off on a tangent here, but that is kind of one of my goals for 2020 is, just learning what is even possible with Shopify and what parts we need help with. One thing that I really loved about the conversation I just had a few hours ago was this person was very much so a creative, and it was fun just to talk with another creative person who is like very just in their own world with their art and the characters that they had built, and helping her realize, like, you can share the stuff that's in her head, and there probably is an audience out there that would be interested in it. It's not just like her friends and family, because she was explaining the stuff to me and I was like, this is awesome. Here are several other people doing stuff that's similar, and we can take inspiration from how they're being able to share their story in their little creative world as well, and see if there are people out there that would be interested in that. But we kind of have to let people into your world. So that was just fun of working with someone. So it wouldn't be like me doing any of the design work for her. It would be more of me creating some of the structure that's underneath her, of like her own Shopify store, and we'll figure out all the details as that relationship just started. But that's exactly the position that I want to be in 2020. Like, see someone who's doing something cool, more creative people that just need help, adding some products to what they already have to make that a little bit more stable for them, and for them to see some growth, and throwing out ideas out there like, Instagram and these platforms that I don't really know all that well, especially how to use them for a business sense. But I know that there are, people that we've gone to conferences and spoke at the same conference as them that are really good at Instagram. So reaching back out to those people and be like, hey, now I have clients who need help with Instagram. Can you help us? It's not something that I have to completely learn on my own and have the skill set for. So I feel like I've basically taken over the show, so I do apologize, Stephen, as there are things I know you want to share, but this is all like the stuff that I'm living through right now. So that's what, again, that's what we want to do for the teaching side of the business in 2020 is like, I just had this conversation hours ago. Here's where we're at. Like, here's what this structure is going to look like. It's going to be Stephen wearing the deal structuring hat, or at least helping me underneath this, Shopify umbrella that, is forming now that we're calling it a business, and it's no longer just Nate talking with random people and trying to like, get their products up there. It's like, okay, this thing has some legs to it. Let's do this proper, have systems and people in charge of certain things. But I'm still overseeing basically all of that. So
yeah, it's where the rubber meets the road. This is where I think we might have gotten away from a little bit in the last year, just because there was so much like traveling and balancing and trying to figure out how does this business work? And we're stepping on each other's toes and we're adding too much to the business and the opportunities are growing. It was a little more unstructured than I think you like it, especially like you like to have things a lot more organized, and you kind of like gotten more into my world when it was like, here's all these opportunities. Let's go after all this stuff. Now with like being able to set you aside and go, okay, Shopify is something new. You take the lead on this. You get to do all this. The rest of this, I will continue to run this madhouse, but we need to add more people. We've added a lot to our business and we've just been bouncing too much. How do we bolt and then pick a lane to do it? I think it's fascinating. The same thing that we were talking about is goal setting. Last year, we talked about reflecting. It's happening quicker than we even expected. When you were like, hey, I'm going to do the Shopify thing. This is my lane. I want to go out and do this. I don't know if you had this meeting set up when you went to Michigan. I didn't know about it, but just to hear you say, oh, I have a meeting set up. I was like, oh, perfect. We just talked about this. We just separated it out. We just started setting goals and figuring out how this actually works. Now it's happening. Like, you have another deal that you're working on, and I think it fits in perfectly what we were trying to talk about. You set a goal, the opportunity, I don't know if it manifested or it was already set in place, but now that you have like, this is what I'm going to focus on, now you're seeing those opportunities, and those opportunities are falling into Shopify.
Yeah. I don't know when the last time you guys got a new car is or whatever, but like when I first got my car, like I had gone from never seeing this car to like now every time I'm out, like I see this car. So I think it's kind of the same thing. Like I'm sure those cars were out there. I just wasn't paying attention to them. So it's kind of the same thing for the opportunities, right? Like this is someone I knew of for the last 6 months or so, but it wasn't until this morning that I was like, hey, I'm in Michigan for the holidays. Is there a possibility that over this next week we could just talk and see if there's any way that I could help you because I liked your art? And then they're like, yeah, the next 2 hours I'm free if you can make it at this place and we'll talk. And I was like, perfect. So it is just one of those things where you start to see those opportunities and putting some effort and just making the connections of like, I've seen a lot of cool artists and I'm in, some circles with some very cool artists, but I hadn't exactly known how to work with them on certain projects because either they already had like their own merch stores or whatever. But now that I feel like Shopify opens up so many other lanes, I feel like now I can go back out to them and talk with them and see where those opportunities go. And a lot of them I'm sure won't, result in anything besides more understanding the type of people that I want to work with. That's definitely something that Stephen has made me realize as like we're working with several people in the music industry. I'm like, all right, great. I'm all in on the music industry. Like that will be my thing. I'll learn how to like speak the, way to them where they understand exactly what I'm talking about. But Stephen made me realize it's a lot more the people that I'm working with that I just have good relationships with. And you can start to tell that, after the first 2 or 3 meetings, especially when like this person lives in Michigan. So when we start emailing back and forth, we'll see if this is someone I can keep communication up with because that's an incredibly important part of, making me feel comfortable in the relationship of, this partnership that we have, like if we can have clear communication. And so that will be, another telling thing of the person that I'm working with, regardless of how much I like their art or, what they're doing. If we can't have communication, it's probably not going to work for me because of the way that we like to test things out and try new ideas and run things by people before we do them and all that. So that's been another eye-opening thing. Another goal for 2020 is to, not only expand my network, but also work with people that I enjoy working with and can have good communication with.
Sorry,
I know that you're in chat, which is rare. Steven's starting to take over chat, which I like. But I know this is completely about me tonight. Do you want to talk about the things that you have?
A lot of what I'm going to be saying about goal setting is stuff that you've covered. Okay. I don't know if it'll be more beneficial to hear it from another point of view, but I feel like you covered a lot of the points that I wanted to make. I do. I mean, we have people in chat. It's been a lot of jokes going back and forth, but if anybody has questions in chat, I'd love to answer them now. Also, like the future of our business is very exciting for me. Working with more people, finding ways to either do business with them or help more on a one-on-one basis. I feel like that's kind of what we started with, and that was the part that we were most passionate about. Doing presentations is something that we enjoy, or at least I enjoy, like going to the events, but I don't know if it's like a passion of ours. Traveling is something that we will continue to do. We want to do more local meetups and meet with you guys and find ways to connect. I think the relationship building over the last year has been amazing. I think it has grown our network to the point where we're able to reach out, like Nathaniel said, when he has a problem with Instagram or we have a problem with whatever. We have a very large network of people to reach out to. In turn, I would like to, when we have opportunities come our way, be able to offer them to the group. I don't know a better
At
way
least
to say
tell
that.
the group about them and
Yes,
see
when
if
it's
they're
like, hey,
right for
we have the
everyone else.
opportunity to do XYZ, or there's an opportunity to work with this person, or we need we have a need, we're looking to fill it in this capacity. That is something that I'd like to do more of. I, again, don't know exactly what that looks like, but I think with Nathaniel learning Shopify, I'm sure there's going to be more opportunities where we just go,
A lot more.
hey, we're hitting a wall. This is kind of what we're thinking about problem solving this, but this is really what I think we need. Or let's find ways to get feedback from the community to say, hey, should we do this or should we do that? Just like this idea. You wanted to work with more people on Shopify. You're working with more creatives. They have this idea. It's not fleshed out yet, but at least you're going, these are some ideas that I think we can do. I don't know how to structure it. I'm going to go back to Steven. That's kind of what we want to do is we're going to go out and be meeting a lot of people. There's going to be a lot of opportunities. Can we come back to this community and go, hey, here's the opportunity. Is there something that we can brainstorm and work together on to move this forward? Because what I've learned this year is we've said yes to a lot of opportunities. We got overwhelmed. Now in the last like 3 months, we're pretty much saying no to everything. And it's not, I think, the best use of our position. I don't know if that's the best way to say that, but we are finding out what our skills are best used for. Now we want to focus in and hone in on that instead of trying to be
And we have this
everything
community of people that we appreciate you guys watching us even on a Monday night of Christmas week, that we want to share these opportunities that we're having and not just talk about the stuff going on, but involve you a lot more, as we said, collaborating with you guys. So I think we can close out the call here. There's lots of jokes going on, so I don't know if you guys want to continue that for a while, but we very much appreciate you guys taking the time out of your weeks, out of the last 2 years to support us. We've seen some people in, chat every week, and we very, very much appreciate you guys always setting time apart for us on Monday nights. We do have an announcement about the time of these shows. Do we want to make that here or wait until the next year?
We can.
Okay.
I said in this one that this would be the last one for the year because I wasn't sure what your plans were. I kind of know what our plans are. So Monday we can actually do a call. I think it'll be a little bit more loose like this one where it was like, I don't know.
Talking.
This one felt bad because it was like we had this plan and then it kind of broke down immediately. And then I was like, oh, we were going to talk about this. And I was all over the place. So I apologize. But we can do another one next week if Nathaniel's available, and we'll just have an open conversation like this. And just like, this is what we have going on. I want to move these calls over to YouTube just because a lot of our content seems to have a much better impact and longevity over on YouTube. We have put a lot of content in many different groups on Facebook, and people were asking us where it's at, and it was hard for me to track it. That's why we started moving this stuff over to YouTube. Ever since I started making that move, I was like, oh, we should just be fully over here. We do a ton of video content. We should put it over here. These Monday calls, I think, is another thing that we're going to transfer over to YouTube. I would like to change the time to go an hour earlier. One, because it gets dark at like 4 and I get tired immediately. I'm just like, 6 o'clock seemed so early before, and now I'm just like, I'm getting old. I'm like, I got to go to bed. So we want to move that call earlier, and we want to move it over to YouTube. I believe we'll still be using Zoom, at least for the time being. As we learn and evolve, I'm sure things will change. We will try our best to let you guys know what's going on. I just think it'll be easier if it's on YouTube, because then There's no like processing and figuring out where does this stuff live. It's just, if it's a video, it should be on YouTube. It should be on our channel. If we do a live, you'll know it's right there. If we talk about something, we can actually like point to it or link to it, or it just, I think will make everything easier for the community to follow and find the content that we're putting out.
Right. For complete clarity though, next week it will be same place, same time.
Yes.
Okay. And then
next year, yeah.
January, so next year, I forget exactly what the first Monday is. I think it's like the 6th. So on January 6th, we will be moving this stuff to YouTube. The Zoom link will still work. These Zoom calls will still be live. We'll just be pushing it to YouTube instead of Facebook. We'll probably make a post in Facebook just so everyone's on the same page. But it would also be an hour earlier, so it'll be at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But
yeah, I guess, sorry, that was a little confusing. I guess I was waiting on you, and I didn't want to like put you on the spot on this call. Like, are we doing another call?
Yeah, no. Steven's been pushing it, and I've been like, hold on, let's wait until, the next year and all this stuff. So that is our plan for this call. If you guys want to see more of our faces and what we have going on YouTube, now is a great week to see all of that stuff. We've been working hard on making the quality over there better and the videos easier to find by putting them in playlist and all those organizational things. So if you wouldn't mind checking that out, you can see some of the content that we have going over there. Some stuff that we've done in various different groups, and then now it's just living on YouTube for everybody to see. So that stuff is 100% free on YouTube, which is great. And we're excited to share some of that content that we've had. And we're like, this is really good stuff, but it's been in this paid group. Now we are just moving that stuff to YouTube so you guys can see all of that. But I hope that you guys all have a very Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays for all the different holidays that are going on in this time of the year. But me and Steven will see you guys. Are we going to say possibly next week, or are we for sure next week?
I'm good to go, so I'm going to throw you fully under the bus.
Okay, so it's on me. So we will for sure be on next Monday, which will be the last one of the year. And then the week after that is when all those changes happen. So please join us on the 30th. Let me double check on the date. I believe it's the 30th. Yes. Please join us on the 30th. Same place, same time. And then we'll change after that. But we appreciate you guys so much for spending your time with us over this holiday break. We hope that you have a great Christmas and holiday time with your friends and family. But until the 30th, again, same place, same time. We'll see you guys.
Merry Christmas and Happy New Year's, guys. Take it easy.